Hi guys, my name is Dan and I'll be doing my presentation on the effects that running shoes have on athletes' performance. There are a few different types of shoes, we'll get into them in a sec, but what I really want to concentrate on is whether one type of running shoe is better for running long distances, short distances, speed, or even for your respiratory system. Essentially, every sport that we play has its own specialised shoe. Every sport that involves your foot will have its own specialised shoe. That ranges from your football boots, which will have a harder outer sole to protect from external forces such as other players or the weather. You've also got your studs on the bottom, which will provide the grip and stability when you're on the pitch. You've got your tennis shoes. They tend to have flat soles and spread the force of the impact across the entire of the foot so that you can change directions quickly. It helps you keep more agile. You've also got your track spikes. Any athlete that will run or perform on a track will use similar shoes to these. They tend to have all the spikes at the front of the foot because that's where all of the force is focused when you're at your maximum velocity. And then you've got your classic running trainers. They tend to have quite thick soles, which make running a comfortable experience. There are other types of running shoes which try and eliminate the sole, which take you back to a more natural way of running, which stop you from hitting the floor with the heel of your foot and try and push the force of the foot onto the front of the foot rather than the back of the foot. All sports shoes tend to have three things in common. I've just gone over a few of them. They all try and protect from external forces, whether that be the ground, whether that be the weather, whether that be other competitors, teammates, or competition. They all try and be comfortable because nobody wants to go out there and perform for an hour and a half on a football pitch in uncomfortable shoes. And they all try and increase performance with the exception of basketball shoes, which the NBA rules aren't allowed to increase performance in any way whatsoever. Basketball shoes are one of the exceptions where they're designed purely for injury prevention. When you're buying running shoes, most athletes will take a few things into consideration. They'll start with whether they're comfortable, whether they're too heavy. You don't want a running shoe which will be heavy. You want to know which type of running shoe is going to be better for what the type of sport you're running. If you're running cross country, you're not going to wear the same running shoe that a marathon runner would wear. If you're a sprinter, you're not going to wear the same shoe a cross country runner would wear. And the key thing is, will they help you run faster for longer? If a shoe drains your legs, then you're not going to be able to run at your maximum performance for as long as you like. Here we have the three different types of running shoes which are available on the market today. You have your classic running shoe, like I said earlier. They tend to have soles which are between 25 and 35 millimeters thick. They put a lot of comfort into the shoe so that when you strike the ground, you don't feel the pressure. But the one problem with that, well, the research suggests that by striking the ground with the heel of your foot, the pressure is going through your joints and all the way up through your leg and has negative effects on your joints, reduces your performance in the longer run. And then you have the zero drop shoes, and they reduce the sole of the foot to less than 10 millimeters, and they can go down to as low as 2 millimeters. Elite athletes such as marathon runners will tend to use these because they're running longer distances. They do need a bit of protection on the sole of the foot and a little bit of comfort, but they don't want to be forced to strike the ground with the heel of the foot like the classic shoe tends to do with athletes. Using a zero drop shoe does push the strike of the foot more towards the front. And then you have the barefoot running shoe, which eliminates all comfort and it is purely designed to protect the foot from external forces. There's no padding in this, it's essentially just to stop puncture wounds. This is one of the more recent advancements in running shoes, and that is purely to help the athlete to hit the ground with the very front of the foot, activating the most muscles and using less joints. During my research, I want to examine whether the barefoot running style is beneficial to performance in relation to speed and impact on the physiological response to exercise. I also want to determine whether the muscle activation levels have an impact on fatigue during wearing footwear for long term. As I discussed, the research does suggest that the smaller the sole, the further forward you land on your foot, which activates more muscles and keeps up more muscles in activation for a longer period of time, which should help develop muscles and make them a lot stronger, but there may also be negative effects on long distance runners where they become more fatigued a lot easier and they can't run for a longer period of time. It says here that research has been done on people that run with different styles of running. Like it said, if you're running with the traditional style of shoes, the comfort in the soles of the shoes does encourage you to land more on the heel of your foot. And by doing that, you are applying 3 to 4 times your body weight on the joints in the leg and the ankle. Whereas landing in the centre of your foot or on the front of your foot, it reduces the pressure to half of your body weight and spreads the force through the muscle, thus activating more of your muscles, helping develop your muscles, making them stronger, making you a better athlete. This is a chap, he's from Mexico. He's a Tarahumara Indian, and they are renowned in the running world for, they have a competition where they run 5 100-mile marathons in 5 days, and the winner a few years ago was a 55-year-old man, and he ran it completely barefoot through the desert, and that's pretty impressive. The only research which I have been able to find on whether barefoot running style actually aids performance rather than injury prevention was done on the oxygen use compared to running in traditional running shoes. And the research I found does state that running with a barefoot running style, the striking the floor more towards the front of your foot, reduces your oxygen intake by, increases your oxygen efficiency by 3.8%. And you can imagine if you're running a marathon which is 24 miles, nearly 4%, that's just under a mile. So you're essentially getting a mile of free oxygen, as opposed to people who are running traditional running shoes. So that gives you an edge over anybody who decides to run in more classic style shoes. In my method, I do have a participant in mind, just one for now. I do intend to increase that if needs be. The reason I might want to increase my number of participants is his running style, his bone structure and muscle structure may not be suitable for the barefoot running style, because it does require a higher arch of the foot. If you have a flatter foot, there is research that suggests that it is very difficult, very painful to run on the front of your foot, and you do have to strike the floor with the heel of your foot. When I'm doing my research, I will start the research by taking a pulse rate. The run I will be asking the participants to do will be a 2-kilometre run around the track. I do intend to use Northwood Stadium if possible. The run will be recorded so I can record and watch his running style. The time will be recorded, and after the race, the heart rate will be taken again. I will do these tests on 3 different occasions in 3 different types of footwear. I'll be asking him first to run the way he would normally run when he's competing. He is an amateur runner, and he does run for a running club at Trenton. The second occasion I'll be asking him to use a zero drop shoe, and the third time I will be asking him to use a barefoot running shoe or even running barefoot. If my results don't turn up with any conclusive evidence, then I may decide to ask for more participants and to see if there is any difference between how he runs and how they run, and whether the performance increase is different for other people and not just on one person. There's two references that I've used.
Anyone got any questions? Okay, I've only got one. Why are you measuring pulse rate?
Due to the oxygen intake. If the research quoted on there is right, then the pulse rate should be lower because you're using more oxygen.
Fabulous.